Welcome back. Back on December 2nd, I did a short video on my Glock 43. I tested the trigger with the gun being bone stock. No modifications at all. The gun is empty, as you can see. At any rate, the average pull on the stock Glock 43 back on December 2nd was 6 pounds 5 ounces. That was an average of 3 trigger pulls using a Lyman trigger gauge. I then started replacing parts one at a time just to see which part would drop the trigger pull and the amount that that single item would drop the trigger pull. I started off, the first thing I did was change the ghost connector, and only the ghost connector. The average trigger pull with just changing the ghost connector was 5 pounds 4.5 ounces, which dropped the trigger pull approximately 1 pound and a half, 1 pound and a half ounce. I then put the stock connector back in, and I changed only the trigger spring. The average pull with just the trigger spring changed was 6 pounds 1.5 ounces, which dropped from the stock pull 3.5 ounces. I then changed just the trigger safety plunger spring. The average pull with just the safety plunger spring changed was 5 pounds 7 ounces. That was a 14-ounce drop from stock. I then started doing a combination of different pulls with multiple parts. I put the ghost connector back in, and I left the trigger spring in. The average pull was 4 pounds 11.4 ounces, which was a drop from the stock pull of 1 pound 9.6 ounces. Then I did the ghost connector, the trigger spring, and the trigger safety plunger spring. The average of the pulls was 4 pounds 5.4 ounces. That was a drop of 1 pound 15.6 ounces from being bone stock. I'm going to put I'll show a sheet with all of this that you can take a longer look at. I was kind of surprised in these the totals of the drop in trigger pull. Nothing was linear. As an example, just the trigger spring alone dropped the pull by 3.5 ounces, but if I added that to the trigger safety spring, which was 14 ounces, they did not add up to 17.5 ounces. There was no linear values involved here. My only guess is that changing one component and by itself had a larger effect than when a second component was changed. It kind of baffled me. I don't know what to make of it all. After I started doing all of the trigger pull with just changing springs in the connector, I decided I wanted to look into getting a smooth trigger shoe. The 43s, like most of the smaller Glocks, come with a serrated trigger. And I absolutely hate the serrated triggers. So I ended up putting on a Lone Wolf trigger shoe, which is adjustable for pre-travel and over travel. I really like the feel of it. I am really pleased with what it did to the overall feel of the gun. Now the Lone Wolf trigger shoe, the smooth trigger, adjustable trigger shoe from Lone Wolf is $49.95. You can buy the trigger shoe attached to a trigger bar for other models of Glocks, but not for the Glock 43. It specifically says on the Lone Wolf website that if you want to use the trigger shoe on a Glock 43, you should buy only the shoe. They do not evidently make a shoe attached to a trigger bar for the 43. So that's what I did. I bought the trigger bar. I bought an extra stock trigger bar, and I bought the Lone Wolf distributor adjustable trigger shoe. After installing the shoe on the trigger bar itself, it made one heck of a difference. Unfortunately, I did not do a trigger pull test with just the shoe being changed. I don't know, I had a brain fart, and the only trigger pull data I have with the Lone Wolf adjustable trigger shoe is using it in conjunction with the ghost connector and the trigger safety plunger spring. Using the Lone Wolf adjustable trigger shoe and the trigger safety plunger spring and ghost connector, I ended up with a average pull weight of 4 pounds 2.5 ounces. That was a drop of 2 pounds 2.5 ounces off of stock. My original goal was to get it right at around 4 pounds. So I achieved that using those combinations, the Lone Wolf trigger shoe, the ghost connector, and the trigger safety plunger spring. I didn't want to go below 4 pounds for a carry gun. I don't like that light of a trigger on a carry gun. I do have some guns that I have for range use that are down below 3 pounds, but something that light's not good for carry. End result is I ended up with changing the trigger shoe to the Lone Wolf trigger shoe and the ghost connector and the trigger safety plunger spring. That got me just above 4 pounds, which was just 2.5 ounces over my goal of 4 pounds. Overall, I really like the Lone Wolf trigger shoe. It's a little bit of a pain to install on a trigger bar because you're dealing with some very small springs and pins. My eyes are not the best. I had to use a little magnifier lens to get it all together. But the feel of the trigger on my finger is phenomenal. The pre-travel is virtually non-existent. I'm going to use my left finger here. There's just enough pre-travel to release the safety that's built in the trigger, and then from that point till bang is very little. It shortened up the reset quite a bit. Also, see if we can show it here. The trigger shoe from Lone Wolf, I think, is phenomenal. As I said before, I would recommend getting it if you want to get a nice feel on your Glock 43 trigger. The price for the shoe itself from Glock is $49.95. I did buy an extra trigger bar, a stock Glock trigger bar. That was $16.98. So altogether it was $66.93 plus shipping for the trigger bar and the Lone Wolf trigger shoe. Here are the here's the data that I recorded changing various parts. If you want to get a better idea of this, I suggest you pause the video and do a screenshot and save it as a JPEG or something. Overall, I'm extremely pleased with the way the trigger came out. Like I say, my goal was 4 pounds and no lighter. I ended up with 4 pounds 2.5 ounces. I did another video on the Glock 43 modifications. That video was posted on 12/17. In that December 17th video, I reviewed True Glow TFX sights. That was another thing I had originally planned on doing, was to change out the Glock sights. I'm not going to go into details. If you want, just do a YouTube search for True Glow TFX sights and I'm sure my video will show up. Overall, I'm not super pleased with the TFX sights, but they are of course an improvement over the stock Glock sights. I do like to have night sights on all of my carry guns. I hope this video gives you a little bit of insight as far as doing a trigger job. I didn't film all of the parts changing and all that sort of thing. There's plenty of videos out there to show you how to change various parts on Glocks. The purpose of this video was more to show what could be achieved by using various parts. Please feel free to leave a comment, and I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. Take care. Have a good day. Stay warm. It's cold here today. It's about 10 degrees outside, although we have warmed up from what it had been for a few days. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.